Welcome everyone to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about The Boys, Season 2, Episode 6. It's called The Bloody Doors Off. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. This is a big one. It revealed a lot of stuff. We got flashbacks, we got some action, we got silly-sized dicks, and all sorts.
We got an Ashmore.
We got one of the Ashmores, the one who was initially Iceman but is now Pyro.
I'm assuming you've just read that somewhere, because there's no way you could just knew which was which from this.
I saw someone else mention it. Yeah, I didn't. Okay. I don't know which Ashmore's which Ashmore.
They are truly identical.
This is the Iceman, not the Jimmy Olsen.
Okay.
Because I'm pretty sure those are different ones.
I think they are different ones. Yeah, man. Between them, they've covered a lot of comic book roles, haven't they?
A lot of fun stuff to talk about this one. Hell, the opening scene in this had Homelander and Stormfront basically getting horny by torturing a mugger in an alleyway, and eventually crushing his head. Homelander crushes his head while she's stroking his crotch. Is basically the opening scene of this episode, which it sets up a tone, I think, one would say.
Yep, it does. It tells you a lot, from obviously where they ended last episode to this. Now they're just, okay, we're doing this outside in public now.
Yeah, because then they have sex up against the wall. Watching Homelander try to be in a relationship, one that he at least thinks is healthy, although definitely it is not, is rather fascinating. The fact that he buys her flowers, and then when he says, "Hey, let's go to your trailer," and she's like, I've got a meeting to go to. I'll be back in about 20 minutes. And then the fact that he just waits and watches the clock the entire time, and when she's a little bit late, because in fact one of my favorite cuts, I don't really talk about my favorite edits in episodes, but him just staring at the flowers as the clock is ticking, and then it just cutting to like, oh, the fire department's here, and there's been a big fire. The trailer's just completely been, disintegrated. I wonder what happened.
Yeah, it's quite funny. I love how terribly petty and jealous he is. I mean, it's like exactly in character. It's exactly what he always is. I mean,
we'll talk about obviously where she went, but because that kind of ties into the other plot. But I think there's something interesting because obviously we get some big reveals at the end where she ultimately is going to be honest with him. But it's very interesting that when she comes back after this fire and she's, being all casual and acting like nothing's wrong, and he demands an explanation, essentially. He's clearly upset. He steps in and puts his hand around her throat. And this feels very, on point for Homelander. It's what he does. He's trying to intimidate her, and he looks very frustrated, of course, that he doesn't seem to hurt her, at all. It's like he tries to squeeze a bit, and it just doesn't work. And she's being very apologetic, which made me suspicious. Her playing the role of scared girlfriend did not feel genuine to me. And even at the end of the episode when she says, "I'm going to come clean and I'll never lie to you again," and she reveals her history. So we've been saying she's a Nazi. She literally is a Nazi. As in from the time. As in the prime...
My guess a few episodes ago was she was Vort's daughter. I thought that wasn't that far off.
No, Vort's wife.
Yeah. I'll take half a point.
And Vought being a mad scientist who came from Nazi Germany is definitely an interesting bit of mythology to throw in there.
Well, we knew that for a few episodes ago, right?
Oh, I think we did, you're right. But just the I don't know, the idea that the whole point of what he was doing all along, though, is trying to make the master race so that...
Yeah, I think this is the most explicit we've had it said, because I know Edgar kind of mentioned the history that Vought was a Nazi scientist that came over to America,
which raises a lot of questions about him. Because
again, I said this episode or two ago. Why is she working for him?
Or more importantly, I wouldn't say it's not so much why is she working for him; it's why is he involved at all? Because I get why she's doing all this for the good of Vought and for the good of what she believes to be the future.
It seems weird that she's okay to take orders from him, given how strongly she clearly feels.
Is she really taking orders from him, though?
Okay, seemingly.
We
seemingly
have not seen
orders.
a single thing to suggest that she actually takes orders from him.
I'm just now waiting for the reveal that that Vought get outed himself into that body.
But again, we've still not seen any evidence that she actually does take orders from him. I want to put that out there.
Beyond her just saying so, like that. Oh yeah, she's here at his direction, and
that was how it said that. That could be a lie.
I agree. Yeah. No, I'm acknowledging that. That's the only evidence that I have there.
So until then, well, I'm going to stay away from the Get Out theories until I actually see her interact with them and see how they are with each other. Because until then, my only real question is, he seems to know this. Why is he involved? That said, him being Get Outed would definitely explain that.
It would, wouldn't it?
But yeah, the idea is trying to create superhumans to live forever, and she and this is the other big thing we find out is that she is the first. She was the first successful Compound V. And they also, obviously, one of the things we learned in this episode is that, like, the only way they can make it work consistently right now is with babies. Because when they try to give it to adults, they get... Some people turn out okay, but a lot of them not. A lot of them have side effects.
Vought got pretty lucky on his wife, right?
Yeah. Because we see the hospital in this episode, obviously, but she's showing all this. She basically tells Homelander that he is the perfect image of the Aryan race, and that they can take the world forward together. And everything they're doing, even creating like super villains out of other people, is to start a race war that they can ultimately.
What I think is really interesting about this is, of course, this is her ideology. This is not surprising or news to us right now.
Oh, not at all.
I don't know if Homelander cares about race in quite the same way.
I think Homelander cares about himself and no one else. So I think if a group of people are going to put him in a pedestal, he is going to accept it with open arms.
No, I absolutely believe that. But in terms of the actual, beliefs of what's going on, I think he might believe that supes are superior to humans. I think that's very plausible. I don't know if he cares about race in the same way that Stormfront does. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, because he's obviously a terrible, terrible person. But we've never seen him be really racist to my memory. He's just been equally terrible to absolutely everyone.
Yeah, he's just awful to everyone. Although I wouldn't necessarily say we've not seen him be... I mean, he's definitely racist in an ignorant way with some of his comments.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Right.
But I mean in the way that Stormfront is here, where... Yeah, on this level.
But... yeah, of course he's going to accept this with open arms. The idea that someone will put him in this pedestal as their,
savior of mankind.
Yeah, like he's all about this. He's going to love this. I definitely didn't necessarily see this going as overt with what it's. I mean, not that The Boys has been subtle up until now.
This was a sledgehammer to the face.
Yeah, this was no. She's literally from Nazi Germany, and the whole plan here is to do this, and this. Fascinating to watch. I'll say that much. And alternatively, the Church of the what do we call it? Collective. Yeah, they're trying to recruit A-Train because the Deep State see Maeve because he's got this recording from the plane that went down. Maeve wants to use it to blackmail him.
Yeah, so this is interesting again because we were talking about last episode. Maeve's clearly going against Homelander now.
Yeah, I think
this is her tactic for now.
I don't think this is the plan that's going to work. This feels like something that'll just get them both killed. And alternatively, it looks like her girlfriend also kind of sees Maeve as somewhat responsible for the death of all those people on that plane.
I will be surprised if at least one of those pair aren't dead by the end of this season. I think Elena's the easy one to go, oh, she'll be gone. But I think it could be Maeve. I think Homelander could be just like, nah, screw this, and just kill her.
It's possible. But that's her tactic. She's got this footage, which we see. But it's when the Deep sees A-Train, and they try and act friendly and casual, although A-Train's not happy to see him, clearly. He just wants to go about his business. But he is suckered in a little bit. Because Deep just says something like, oh, well, I thought, they could offer you help, but, Killy, you're doing all right. It's like, who's they?
A-Train's doing fine. He's got a song coming.
Yeah. Stupid song.
Which they also play over the closing credits.
They do, yes. We hear the demo of this stupid rap song. But notably a rap song by a chubby, middle-aged white guy, which I think was definitely an intentional ad for comic effect. But he ends up having dinner with our third timeless actor, who's the leader of the church.
Yep, Kripke's really bringing him in, isn't he?
Yep. And A-Train, isn't really interested at first, but, he talks about getting back in the Seven. Honestly, at this point, though, I feel like their plan is to build their own Seven rather than get them back into Vought 7.
Quite possibly, yeah. They probably just want to rival Vought and
I feel
their
like
own thing.
The Church of the Collective is going to end up being this chaotic third party who want to take down the Seven, want to take down Vought, aren't necessarily likeable, but oppose what Vought's trying to do.
I think it's interesting that they're trying to do this with washed up heroes. I don't see it working that well for them.
I don't know. It's definitely going somewhere.
I did laugh though when the Deep was like, "Do you want a Fresca?"
Kool-Aid, yes.
Yeah. But it was they've been doing that all season with him. The not Green Arrow kept doing it to the Deep.
Yeah, everyone's drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
So that stuff's interesting. But the big main plot that we've kind of, we've left here is the main gang going to this hospital, which they've been able to track down. Starlight got off the computer when she was snooping last episode. Yeah. And interestingly, she's going to come with, and Butcher's okay with it. Now, admittedly, Butcher's reasoning for letting her come with is not exactly
no, it's
warm and
if
fuzzy.
Shit goes wrong and Vought realise that Starlight's here, then they'll be more worried about her than they will about the rest of us.
Yes, it's a tactic. But it's interesting because it's a chance for them to finally be on a mission together and interact and see how they play off of each other. She makes digs at him for shooting her last season. He's making constant digs. She outright basically calls him a bigot for the way he thinks about superheroes. The idea that
she's not wrong.
Yeah, no, I mean we've called him out in the reviews before about how he kind of talks about supers like a bigot would talk about anyone else, but there's a lot of interesting things that come out of just their interactions and how they sort of fight and ultimately end up kind of almost bonding because they both love Huey. Essentially, obviously.
Not in the same way.
No, yeah, obviously Butcher's not just outright saying that yet, but he does. And there's a thing at the end where they have to save Huey and he's been stabbed with a shrapnel because the van's been flipped over and he's injured. Obviously there's other things that happen as well, but...
I actually really like that moment where as soon as it happens, Butcher does immediately react. He's like, shit, Huey.
Yeah, that's his first instinct, yeah. Hers as well. They both immediately just bolt for the
I
van.
Think we expect that from her because she's a good person.
Oh, obviously, yeah, but they both run and he seems fine at first, but then he's like, he's got like shrapnel in him. He's like, oh shit, and it's like we have to go, and it ends up in Starlight seemingly just outright killing, not intentionally, of course.
It's. I mean, I guess you'd do it as manslaughter rather than murder, but yeah,
but
she definitely kills a guy.
They try to take this guy's car, and the guy gets. He's kind of willing to a point to take them to the hospital or whatever. But he pulls out a gun because he thinks Butcher's been threatening. And to be fair,
Butcher's like 3 seconds away from pulling out a gun of his own.
And Starlight is, as she points out afterwards, like she's not even that upset. She's just mad. She's, all she could think in the moment is, why did you have to pull the gun out? Why did you have to do it, you idiot? And I think what's interesting about this is it's showing that Starlight, while obviously a really good person, is being desensitized a little bit, and
she's getting a little bit corrupted.
A little bit corrupted. I would say it's more just that there's layers and there's a bit more shades of grey in her. But alternatively, that Butcher also has the opposite, is that he's not just this like other end of the spectrum. There's shades of light in him as well.
Sure.
The idea being they're both bringing out a little bit of each other in each other. That they're more alike than they'd like to think. And that's very interesting. I'm curious to see where it goes with her morality as things go on, because I do ultimately think that I don't want that to be that corrupted. Like, I feel like she ultimately has to remain good and pure. But then again, I suppose the idea here is that Huey is the purest.
He's
of
the good
all.
one. Yeah.
And she is, they can both just try and live up to his example because he's Huey.
I did think some of the dialogue between this pair was a bit much at points.
Butcher and
some
Starlight?
Some of their conversations, like in the car, the monologuing here in the hospital, like, he's just too good for us. Was like, yeah, okay, all right, love, I get it.
But that stuff, I mean, I enjoyed that stuff, but they're at the hospital, and the rest of the team, though, worth mentioning as well that Kimiko does hug Starlight, because there's a little bit more tension. It's like, you don't know what she's quite going to do, because she's still mad at Frenchie. Although not by the end of the episode so much. This is kind of their chance to get over what they've been going through, and we get a bit more in Frenchie. We get the flashbacks, of course, to the night that the grandkids were killed, and Frenchie was supposed to be watching Lamplighter, who it turns out the Ashmore character is in the hospital. We actually forgot to mention him last, because there was one scene where Stormfront phoned him last episode, and we forgot to mention that.
Yeah, it was just a brief little thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, but we sort of obviously picked up on that. But the rest of them, along with MM, are sneaking into this hospital, trying to get any intel they can, hard drives, security tapes, things like that. And they sneak in, but things go a little bit haywire.
I think I forget, even before things go haywire, how willing to kill people they are. Because, when they do the ruse to get in the security room, the guard's in there. As soon as he opens the door, it's like, right, just shoot him twice in the chest.
Yeah, the logic perhaps is that this is an evil hospital facility run by.
Yeah, I'm not.
Bot, I guess
I'm not disputing it or arguing with it, and it's fine. I think it fits within the established morality of these characters. I think it still sometimes catches me off guard because they're not as good as Huey, basically.
I was wondering about it actually, because I was like, wait, they just killed that guy, or are they using tranks? Like, what's going on here? Like, and
I'm pretty sure they killed him.
I think
it looked like that to me.
I think they did, but something about the bullet holes felt a little less like splatty, so I wasn't sure if they'd done something else. But they see on the security, though, we see a variety of different superpowers on display in the various inmates, if you will. The guy with the big schlong, of course, being one of the more notable ones that's pointed out.
The love sausage.
Love sausage, that's the name.
And I only know that because I know he's a character in the comics, and I've seen him like memed quite a lot.
And there's other ones. So there's a tiny person who's shrunk down to like a little, very tiny size. There's someone who's kind of like flickering in out of existence.
I really like that their assumption here is, oh god, they're trying to make more soup terrorists, and maybe that's like a side effect that hey, we'll just use them as that, but it's clearly not the core intention, the core motivation, right? It's the experimentation that it's really about.
They're trying to make a compound V that they can give to any adult, and it'll work.
Yeah. That's
what they want. That is their goal. Perhaps to give everyone as they see as the master race, if you will, superpowers. And
quite possibly, yeah.
But as they're escaping, unfortunately, they realise Lamplighter's there, and Frenchie and him kind of stare at each other. They recognise each other. Things immediately go to shit. However, when Lamplighter, tries to burn them, he ends up making a hole in the wall, and Cindy, the one who on the security tapes, or on the it's tapes, not tapes, it's live, but you know what I mean, this on the security feed. She's the
How old is this? The security tapes.
She's the one who's sort of like staring at them as if she knows they're in the room watching. And she comes out, and immediately Lamplighter's like scared. He's like, "Hey, Cindy, remember I give you some extra pudding and stuff. Like, remember, we're friends." And she's like, "Who are your friends?" And MM's like, "We're not his friends. Go on, F him up." Do what you want.
Yeah, like, you dress like his friends. It means you're liars. They're like, we're gonna go.
And this answers the question of who made the FBI lady's head pop back in episode 1.
Yep.
Because Cindy could just make people pop. She just makes them pop. Like
lots of popping.
Like the balloons, they just pop. Blood everywhere. So they have a bit of a sort of siege situation. They're trapped in there. They have to figure things out. We learn a lot of stuff about the flashbacks, about how he wasn't actually trying to kill the grandkids. He was going after Gracie herself. And that like that's fine.
That was like, okay, it's fair game. They're both in the game, and it wasn't like, I mean, it was, they'd still probably hate him, but not quite to this extent. It wouldn't be like a heinously evil act in the same way.
Because he says multiple times before we find out, he says, "Why didn't you stop me? You were following me." As if, and he's kind of choked up at least at one of the points when he says it. So you get the idea that he's like, "Why didn't you stop me? God damn it!" In Frenchie, of course, we find out his friend was ODing because he was following him, but then he had to go to help someone. And he's kind of had this on him because this was something that was in season 1. Actually, it was them kind of holding the group. I mean, the main group.
Yeah.
Kind of holding a grudge for what happened that night, and they clearly didn't know why he missed this or why he lost them. And so this is all interesting stuff, and it leads to like when they eventually get out. I mean, we should mention the giant schlong. Love Sausage does get his dick around and this is the thing. It takes a minute to realize what it is because
at first you thought I thought, oh, is that a stretchy arm? For like the first second or so,
or a tentacle or whatever. And then I'm like, wait, that kind of looked like foreskin. And then you look through the window and you see it like going back up his like trouser leg, and it's like, oh dear.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Again, this show continues to impress me with having the balls to do things that other TV just won't.
That wasn't the balls.
Yeah, I know. I'm really glad you took that. Yeah, teed it up nicely for you.
But ultimately, Lamplighter like because they call her in and she's going to kill him for what he did, and Frenchie, who's wanted to kill him for most of the episodes, like, no, I'm telling you, don't do this. I'm asking for his life. Because he
begging,
can help.
I believe.
Begging,
it says.
So, he does go through an arc. Lamplighter's an interesting character. Because it's interesting, because when we see him in the flashback, he has like a hood and he has like his staff.
He's a surprisingly nuanced character, actually.
Yeah. But this was when he was in the 7. And it kind of, because he tries to claim that no one cared about him. That's why the 7 didn't come and kill. It's like, Homelander comes and kills everyone that pisses him off even slightly. Like, why wouldn't he?
For like the tiniest things.
And it turns out he never told them.
He felt terrible about it because he didn't think there was going to be kids there. He didn't know. And that's why, we come back to it. He's like, why didn't you stop me? Because he wishes he'd been stopped. He didn't want to do that.
And it's these ideas here where trying to get out the cycle of revenge and try to get over that anger and becoming better. And, I think that's what makes Huey so important, to go back to the, both... Even Starlight, who seems like a really good character, even she's like sort of realizing that Huey's kind of her moral compass, that this is something that she can kind of gauge herself on. And we know Butcher needs that. Butcher's so off the deep end, he needs someone to tether him a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, that's not even really up for debate.
But it's interesting that the others are kind of on a path to something better. Oh, by the way, I love the moment early on where Stormfront and Homelander are on the news just doing some sort of cheap interview, and Butcher and Kimiko are watching it. And it's just funny at first because it's like both of them are watching their two rivals, right? This is the two that they both hate, side by side, so they're sitting watching together. But there's a moment where Butcher's just watching, he's just paying attention to the way they're talking, the body language, and he just says, "They're effing." And Kimiko just sort of like nods, she's noticed it as well.
Yeah,
it was
a lot of little bits like that.
Just a shared little bonding moment between two characters. Up until because it's not like Butcher wanted to take her in. Butcher wanted to leave her behind and have nothing to do with her.
Yeah, terrible soup bitch. I think he called her at one point, probably.
Yeah, and it's like because Frenchie does apologize to her, and he's like, "Hey, I sort of latched myself on to try to save you to make up for my past sins, but clearly, you didn't need help." I mean, she didn't need help when they found her, but clearly everything he's been doing for the last, it's been months in the show, I think, rather than years, but everything they've been doing, like, he has been constantly trying to treat her like, you need my help, and let me help, let me be your savior kind of thing. And this is kind of more like, no, now they're on equal footing, now they kind of understand each other. And something. It's actually insane that there's only 2 episodes left. I'm kind of annoyed now.
Oh, I know. And we haven't even talked about one of my favorite scenes of the episode yet.
Oh, go on.
Which is towards the end of they're in the hospital, they're trying to get out, and Stormfront shows back up.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, this is the second time she shows up, because the first time it's when they're in the security room, and this is before anything's happened outside. Because the reason why they get injured outside is because one of the inmates gets out and flips the van. And I actually really like that scene. I like Billy try to be nice to him and be like, "Hey, we're all friends here, mate," you kind of thing. Just try to talk him down.
Yeah, and then he's like, screw this.
Yeah. But yeah, Stormfront comes in. They're all kind of panicking because why is she here? But she leaves, right? She's here and she's like demanding, results. She's talking to one of the inmates, one of the patients. And I know maybe patients is more accurate, but it feels like inmates. They're clearly, because the guy wants to go home. Like they've been held here by force against their will. And she comes back, obviously, and like shit's going down, and Lamplighter has to kind of bluff his way like through and pretend that nothing's wrong. And he doesn't give the others up. At this point, they've bonded enough, and he's heard the story that they're all hiding behind like the wall, essentially just off to the side. We can see them in the same shot as him, and she's talking to him, and he's just trying to play it casual, talking about Cindy escaped and she let the others out, and
yeah, he just blames one of the other doctors, says did the wrong dosage again. This has happened before, and conveniently, I assume this other doctor is very dead. I think that's the one that got exploded early on.
Very probably, very probably.
So it's easy alibi there.
Yeah. No, that's a good. It's a really good tense scene. Yeah, because Stormfront's inclusion here, which I mean, presumably she goes out to tell Homelander some of this stuff if she hasn't, which is actually something that I was meaning to get to at the start. Actually, I never quite made my point. Is that because she's very apologetic in that final scene. She's like, "I'm telling you everything now. You can be the perfect person that we all look up to. You can be our leader. Blah 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 blah." I think she's playing him, and I think she's still the one in control.
Of course she is. There's not even a possibility that that's not the case.
Well, okay, what I mean is that there's not even any truth to her being scared of him. There's no... And maybe it goes back to the whole neck thing from earlier in the episode, but there's not a fibre of my being that doesn't think that she is playing with him for a purpose, for an end goal, and will have no problem disposing of him the second she is done with whatever she needs him for.
I really thought you were going to come in here with like a hot take, insightful thing at the end here, and then it was just like, yeah.
But no, I think it's worth pointing out because it's not, because we hadn't mentioned it yet, and I feel like she bizarrely is becoming more of a villain this season than even he is. He is absolutely dreadful, but she is...
This is what I was kind of getting at a few episodes ago. He is a terrible, awful person, but ultimately does everything because he's very selfish, right? And very petty and insecure in himself.
I still disagree that you used the word worse. She's not worse.
I think she is at this point.
They're both absurdly dangerous. They just have different motivations.
No. I didn't say more dangerous. I said worse. More dangerous, I mean, that's questionable. I don't know. Yeah, that is TBD. But worse, I am confident at this point in saying categorically she is. He is a self-centered, very egotistically driven, petty man. Whereas she ideologically despises large portions of the population in a very different way. In a more real world way as well. I think that makes her, for me, worse and a quote unquote scarier, more effective villain.
I mean, he doesn't seem to have a problem going along with it.
Of course not. But again, it comes down to he doesn't. I don't think he believes in the cause. He just likes the attention.
Yeah, but who cares if he believes in it? If he's willing to take part in it and act in it, like one of the biggest things we talk about in the world is that the people who are the absolute racist bigots aren't actually the ones that are like the bigger problem is the amount of people who are just ambivalent to it and are apathetic to it, right? That's, in a weird way, that's kind of what Homelander almost represents here. He's just willing to go along with it because it's convenient for him, because it's convenient and makes him feel more powerful. And she's the one who's actually the driving force of like, no, we're better, blah, blah, and all these other things.
Yeah, but her being the one, whipping this agenda along makes her worse.
Sure, I don't care. I don't care.
Glad we settled that.
we haven't settled anything. You just don't let things go. So we're ending it here because I'm done.
Okay.
All right. That's episode 6. It's a very good episode. And once again, it felt focused. It felt like it had a main point. You know, everything revolving around the hospital really gave it a sort of proper bookend.
I really like Lamplighter, how he has to have the fire source there. Like, he can't just create fire. And it kind of it reminded me of Starlight in this episode. It works in a similar way. She can't just do her stuff in the middle of nowhere. There has to be power source for her to draw from.
Yeah, or at least
I think I'd probably forgotten about.
Well, I think it's not so much that there has to be one there, but because I think she can maintain a charge for a while. Because when she first uses her powers for defense,
then she says she's out, right?
Yeah, but that uses it all up, so she has to get more power and obviously it's from the car because they want to characterize like Huey's wound, and she doesn't get to do it until they get a car, so she can drain it a little bit. It also gives the powers some, some
definition.
Not even just definition, but like they're not just like absurdly powerful. And obviously there's some characters in this show that are absurdly powerful, but it gives them limitations, it gives them rules, it gives them things we have to work around, kind of thing.
Yeah, it gives you, and ultimately for our team, ways to defeat them. Yeah,
which is good because it makes everything feel harder and more difficult in a challenge and all the rest of it. And it makes sense why Lamplighter's walking around with a lighter and in the past when he's costume, he's walking around with literally a big torch the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, you can get away with it when you're in the 7, I guess. You can be that showy.
It's very ceremonial. He's got a big torch.
It is, yeah. And I also felt they were teasing the potential of maybe some of our team taking the Compound V at some point. To fight back. They kind of gave it a couple of looks once they realized what was going on really in this facility.
That could be interesting if someone ends up with powers who doesn't currently have them.
Yeah.
The effect of that. And Frenchie's the one who's constantly taking drugs, as we see, who really needs to sort out his drug problem.
Could be useful, yeah. Especially as someone whose best friend OD'd.
Yeah.
You'd think this probably has a lot of personal weight for him.
Because it's not like he's over it either. We sometimes see him just take random substances as he's working on stuff. Like, he's still clearly...
I mean, what was it, 2-3 episodes ago when Butcher was leaving? And I think it was MM trying to, talk him out of it. And he was like, you got to say bye to the others. And he's like, well, Frenchie's so high he wouldn't even notice.
Yeah. So that's clearly an ongoing problem. Yeah, I think the episode's super focused. One of my favourite lines, actually, is when he's mad at... I think he's mad at Stormfront. He walks off saying, I have to go run lanes with Black Noir, and walks off. It's a really funny line.
Yeah, it was. Just the idea of these, literal superheroes just going and go, I'm going to go run the lines. Like, they're actually all just acting themselves instead of, having actors play them.
That's not even why I think it's funny. I think it's funny because Black Noir doesn't talk.
I know, of course there's that as well. But just the idea of him taking it seriously, or even pretending to take it seriously, is funny as well in its own right for me.
Yeah. So no, funny, emotional, has its heart. For all the shades of grey that it kind of dips its toe in. Ultimately, what separates the heroes in the show from the villains is that they actually have some heart. And
I think it's very clear in the point of the show where, like I say, it's very edgy at points. It wants to be over the top with its violence and have fun with that, and it wants to present morally grey characters. But the show is always very clear that no, these are grey. These are not always the right things to do, and it presents this is what the right should be, mainly through Huey, admittedly. But because it has that clear, defined point of this is what good is supposed to be like, and everything else is trying to measure up to that. It's always very self-aware because of that.
Yeah. So, no. And for the record, it's another 65-minute episode, which flew in. These are long episodes, and they're not feeling it, so they're doing something right. It really is impressive. It's actually really funny looking back now how comparatively weaker the first couple of episodes felt, and then from episode 3 onwards, it's been nothing but gold, basically. Yeah. So
some really good stuff.
So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do in the last 2 episodes. And yeah, so there you go. That is episode 6 of The Boys. Do let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. Check out our Patreon, patreon.com/MailFuzzTV if you want to support everything we do. It help keep all the content coming. You can donate as little as $1 per month over there and get some bonuses for your troubles. Otherwise, that's us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?